Today we are going to talk about something that I think a lot of men don't even realize about themselves, and that is the signs that you might actually be an attractive man without being aware of it. This is far more common than people think. There are so many men walking around believing they don't have what it takes in relationships, that they're not appealing enough, that they're somehow not on the same level as other men. And because of that, some men pull away from relationships altogether or avoid even putting themselves out there because they've convinced themselves they don't stand a chance. But the truth is, sometimes the very opposite is going on. Sometimes the signs are right there that you're attractive, and you simply haven't been able to read them for what they are. Now, I want to make something clear before I go any further. Obviously, attraction is subjective. What one person finds appealing, another person might not notice at all. So what I am sharing with you today isn't some sort of checklist that means if you don't have all of these signs, you're unattractive. That's not how this works. These are more like clues that show up in social interactions, clues that are often overlooked by men, but that actually point to the fact that they are indeed attractive in ways they might not recognize. And another thing, I am going to reference some research in this conversation. If you're curious about the studies and want to go deeper, I'll make sure the links or references are in the description box. But I know not everyone is used to reading academic papers. For me, it's part of my daily life because I'm a doctoral student. I literally spend hours reading research papers every single day. Not exaggerating. It's my world right now, and one day, I'll be publishing more of my own. For me, reading data and parsing what's valid and what's not valid is second nature. But I completely understand that not everyone has that same background. So if the thought of reading research papers makes you want to close your laptop, don't worry. I'll translate the important parts into plain human language for you, so it makes sense without all the academic jargon. So let's dive into it. One of the first signs that you might actually be more attractive than you realize is that you notice other men seem to treat you with hostility or jealousy for no real reason. A lot of men don't realize that this is connected to attractiveness. We usually think of jealousy as something that happens between women, but it definitely happens among men too, often in really subtle ways. Maybe you've noticed that some guys make strange remarks about you, or they try to cut you down in front of others, or they treat you like competition even when you weren't trying to compete. At first glance, it feels like they just don't like you. But often, what's really happening is that they see you as a rival. There was research back in 2009 that highlighted this exact dynamic. Attractive men are more likely to be perceived as rivals by other men. And this makes sense if you think about it biologically and psychologically. In a social context, especially one that involves dating, work status, or group dynamics, other men may see you as someone who has an advantage. So, they push back. They might be passive-aggressive, they might make jokes at your expense, or they might avoid letting you into certain circles. If you don't recognize what's going on, it can feel personal. It can feel like rejection. But once you see the bigger picture, you realize it's not about your shortcomings. It's about their insecurity. They perceive you as someone who could take attention or resources, like romantic partners, admiration, or status, that they want for themselves. And here's the important part. Don't let their jealousy become your self-doubt. It's not an attack on your worth. If anything, it's an indirect compliment. Instead of shrinking into yourself or wondering what's wrong with you, try to recognize it for what it is. Label it. Tell yourself, okay, this isn't about me being unworthy. This is envy. This is them feeling threatened. That shift in perspective can protect your self-esteem and remind you that, yes, you probably have qualities that make you stand out more than you think. Another subtle but powerful sign is that people, often women but not exclusively, open up to you with personal information. You might be talking to someone casually, and suddenly they're sharing details about their life, their struggles, or their family that they don't normally disclose. At first, you might not think much of it. You might even think they overshare with everyone. But there is research showing that people are more likely to disclose personal information to someone they find physically appealing. This was demonstrated in a study from 2008. The underlying psychology is that attraction creates a sense of safety and connection. When someone perceives you as attractive, They feel more comfortable being vulnerable, as if you're someone who won't judge them harshly or misuse what they share. This isn't just about romantic attraction. It's about how your presence makes people feel. If people seem to relax around you and confide in you, even strangers in places like the grocery store or classmates or coworkers, this could be a sign that you're more magnetic than you realize. People are wired to connect with those they're drawn to. It doesn't mean every woman who shares her personal life story with you is secretly in love with you, but it does mean they feel a unique level of comfort around you that they might not feel with others. That ties into another related sign. People, especially women, act more relaxed and friendly when you're around. It might look like casual friendliness, but friendliness can actually be a reflection of attraction. Research shows that people behave more openly, more warmly, and more comfortably around someone they find appealing. Think about those moments when you've seen a woman in an uncomfortable situation. Who does she move toward? Often, it's the guy she instinctively trusts, the guy who seems safe. And frequently, that sense of safety is tied to finding him appealing. She might approach you for help, or she might start a conversation with you out of nowhere. Of course, personality plays a role here too. If someone is naturally avoidant or reserved, they may not open up no matter how attractive they find someone. But if you notice that even strangers seem to gravitate toward you, strike up conversations, or seem more relaxed when you're nearby, that's a subtle but strong indicator that you have an appeal you might not be recognizing. Another one that men often overlook is that people remember details about you. This one can be confusing because you might think, well, maybe they just have a good memory. But studies actually show that people allocate more attention and memory resources to individuals they find attractive. One particular study from 2003 pointed out that people literally recall more about a person's words, actions, and appearance if they think that person has an appealing face. It's not conscious. It's just the way the brain prioritizes information. So, if you've noticed that people remember things you said in passing, or they bring up details about your life that you didn't expect them to recall, it could be because you're leaving an impression. Even in professional settings like job interviews, this effect plays out. An interviewer might unconsciously give more weight to your words because your appearance keeps their attention. That doesn't mean attractiveness replaces skill, but it does mean it creates a lasting impression that people carry forward. Another important sign, and one that can sometimes feel uncomfortable if you don't understand it, is eye contact. People tend to make and maintain more eye contact with those they find attractive. Sometimes it shows up in a more subtle way, like noticing someone glancing at you and then quickly looking away when you catch their eyes. You might interpret that as them thinking you're strange, but it's often the opposite. They were looking at you because they found something appealing, and when you noticed, they pulled back out of self-consciousness. Eye contact is one of the strongest nonverbal indicators of attraction. Research consistently finds that individuals who are perceived as attractive receive more visual attention than those who aren't. It's not always obvious, and not every person you catch looking at you is interested. But if you notice this happening regularly, it's another hint that you're drawing people's attention more than you realize. Now, here's why I think it's so important to talk about all of this. A lot of men misinterpret these signs. Instead of recognizing them as indicators of attractiveness, they translate them into negatives. If men are hostile toward you, you think you're disliked. If women share personal stories, you assume you've been put in the friend zone. If people stare, you assume something's wrong with you. If people remember things about you, you assume they're just being polite. These interpretations chip away at your confidence. They make you pull back from social opportunities and relationships, when in reality, the opposite should happen. If people are staring, it's usually not because you look odd. It's because there's something about you that draws attention. If people are remembering details, it is not because they were obsessed with being polite. It is because you stood out in their mind. If people are warm and relaxed, it's not a sign that you're invisible as a romantic option. Often, it's a sign that you're attractive enough to make them feel safe and open. And if other men are jealous or competitive, it's not because you're weak. It's because they see you as someone strong enough to threaten their own standing. These dynamics, both the positive ones and the uncomfortable ones, are part of what happens when you are, in fact, an attractive man. And I don't want you to overlook them anymore. Instead of internalizing them as negatives, I want you to reframe them. See them as evidence of your potential. Use them as reminders that you have qualities that others notice, that others value, and that others respond to. The truth is, being attractive comes with both benefits and challenges. The benefits are clear. People connect with you more easily, remember you, gravitate toward you. The challenges are real, too. Others may be jealous, competitive, or even unkind. But once you recognize the pattern, you can stop letting it confuse you or erode your self-worth. You can take it as validation instead of criticism. So, if you've been walking around thinking you're invisible, thinking you're unattractive, or thinking you have nothing to offer, I hope this shifts your perspective. The signs may have been there all along. You just didn't know how to read them. And if you start paying attention, you might realize you've been carrying around an attractiveness you didn't even know you had. And with that, thank you for spending this time with me. If this resonated with you, I hope you'll keep exploring these ideas, keep building your confidence, and most importantly, stop underestimating yourself. Please like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.